The story of John, or as my boyfriend wants to call it, underage, long-range, statutory. This one is a bit of a story, so bear with me. When I was around 14 years old, I was starting to come into my own. The boys in my class hadn't really caught up yet. So, like plenty of kids who didn't feel comfortable bringing their questions about sex to their parents, I learned from the internet. My primary vehicle for this was Omegle, text or video chat. Coming from a sexually repressive sort of religious household, the barrage of sex and adult stuff that was suddenly hitting me was kind of scary, but interesting too. I learned how people talk dirty to each other, what men like to see, what masturbation was, and why it was okay. Some of the people I met on there could probably constitute their own stories on Let's Not Meet, especially when I started showing tits, but that's for another day. Omegle became a quick and easy way to get male attention and feel attractive and valued, which was a thing I sort of craved as an awkward teen. I got a lot of it on there because I was a redhead who was developing quite a body to grow into. I had one of those silly, pointless relationships in my freshman year of high school, and when I went on a school trip to Germany, I wrote mine and my then boyfriend's initials on a little heart on the back of the Berlin Wall, where you can sign your name. A week after I came back, we broke up. I was kind of upset that I'd written that shit on the Berlin Wall, like, when was the next time I'd go back there to rectify that? Did I really think he and I would last forever? I was on Omegle a few weeks later, doing my usual pubescent intel gathering, when I ran into a guy named John. He was reasonably good looking, said he was 23 years old. He lived hours away from me. If you're a parent or a teen or preteen, this is probably where your alarm bells are going off if they hadn't already. But older men were exciting, made me feel awfully mature. I made my own foolish mistakes during that time, and consider myself reasonably informed and well-adjusted now. I made it this far without being kidnapped and thrown in someone's basement. John asked if I would flash my boobs. I politely declined, and we ended up having a pretty decent conversation. We ended up talking about Germany. Turned out he was going in a few weeks. I told him where to find the initials and asked if he could please cross them out for me. We exchanged email addresses, and a few months after that, he emailed me to say mission accomplished. This was the start of the summer after my freshman year. I had just turned 15. John and I started talking more and more. On MSN or Windows Live, whatever it's called now. That summer we talked for hours every day, and we'd video chat late into the night. He'd type instead of talk, mentioning a roommate who was sleeping. We started to develop romantic feelings for each other, or what seemed like them at the time for me, a child. We would engage in very detailed sex fantasy chats. He told me he liked me, told me I was really mature for my age, talked about running away together when I turned 18. One night on video chat, he looked really sad. He told me that he didn't want to lie to me anymore, that he was married and had been since he was 21. He married after dating for less than a year, didn't put much thought into it, and she wasn't kind to him. Apparently she would snap and be awful under pressure. He had dreams of becoming a photographer that she had no regard for, and he wanted to divorce her. This is the point where a reasonable person would abandon ship. I was not a reasonable person. I was a kid. So I did not cut off contact with him. I told him I was in love with him. I understand this isn't the typical LNM story, because I'm not some hapless victim. My choices play a big role in this story. But looking back on this, shit was fucked up. He was soliciting sexual talk from a minor over the internet, and whether or not he was sincere about the feelings he expressed to me, To this day, I think he was, at least a little. What he was doing was wrong, and he should not have been doing it. I was too young and starstruck to know much better. We were in love for that whole summer. I had given up talking to other boys. I thought I was with John. Until September, when he told me he had started going to a Bible study, wanted to get his life back together, was seeing a marriage counselor with his wife, and that they were going to try to make it work. That he was so sorry and hoped I understood. I was pretty devastated for months, but eventually moved on. Even if I felt a little used, victimized. I had a few boyfriends after that. Actually lost my virginity in real life, and eventually considered the whole mess to be a growing experience. I'd stalk his Facebook every now and then. Turned out his wife got pregnant, and they had a daughter. By 18, I was not inclined to feel bad for him anymore, if his sob stories about his wife were true. But I couldn't help but feel sad about this whole situation a little. Here was this woman married to some guy who had professed his love for what was more or less a naive child. She didn't know a thing, and then a kid of their own gets thrown into the mix. If I'm remembering right, he didn't have a job either, which means she was supporting them too. I went from resenting her to sympathizing with her as I got older. Recently, I decided to shoot John a Facebook message. The whole thing is over by years, and I thought, maybe I should say hi. Try to get some closure or some answers or something. I was a little drunk at the time. I completely forgot about the message until I got a reply months later. John said that he was well, that his daughter was the love of his life, and that he was looking for a lawyer to divorce his wife. Because she pretty much said that the things she wants need to come first, and I can achieve my hopes and dreams later. I can't live with that, so she doesn't know it yet, but my mind is made up. Okay, glad to see you're moving forward a little and finally trying to claw your way out of what is clearly a shitty situation for all parties involved. Then he went on. He told me that after saying goodbye to me, he had given up talking to women on Omegle for a while, but that he couldn't stop permanently. He had online relationships with girls all over the country, at least 7 of them. One of them only lives a few miles from him, and when she turns 18, they will move in together once the divorce is official. He went on. She knows everything. She even knows that I'm married. She's the only one that matches up to you. He said that he knew he was preying on emotionally vulnerable women, that he was getting very good at it. He didn't know how to stop. Apparently, some of those girls were so low on self-esteem and so unstable that telling them the truth might have been disastrous, and that he was a horrible person, but not a mean one. It was at this point in the conversation that my boyfriend and I decided to just cut the conversation short. You just don't know how to help people like that, even when they're sending you a cry for help. John said that I was so very different from the girl he knew. Yeah, bruh, I grew the fuck up. Maybe you should try it sometime. So John, you creep, I wish you the best of luck in the custody battle to see your daughter when you move in with that girl the moment she turns legal. Let's not meet in person, ever.